Welcome, everyone, and happy Wednesday. And I want to say almost happy Shavuot. We're less than a week away. I want to thank you, first of all, for joining today and thank the organizations that are partnered with us, with Adama New York, to make this happen. The Westchester Torah Academy, Sharei Tefillah, a synagogue in Manhattan, Bright Energy Services, my colleagues at Adama Jewish Climate Leadership Coalition, and the UJA Federation of New York are close partners. I'm Dr. Shachar Sadeh, the founder director of Adama New York Impact Hub. At Adama, we inspire and empower people and institutions to feel and act on the deep connection between people and planets. We're catalyzing culture change and systemic change through Jewish environmental education, climate action, youth empowerment, and immersive experiences. Here in New York, one of the main thing we're tasked to do is, and this is what we're doing here today, is to support Jewish institutions and help them transition to a better, more sustainable management of their institutions and to understand, develop, and implement climate actions. We do this work through, among other things, our climate coalition. I will throw in the chat some links and you'll also receive everything in a follow-up email, all the details of how to join the coalition. And I'll mention that it is free to join the coalition. And I see that many of the organizations on the Zoom today are members, and this is wonderful. Our Jewish Leadership Climate Coalition is a network of Jewish organizations, over 330 by now, who are provided with structure, guidance, resources, and financial support to help them understand, act, and eventually implement climate action. I want to mention that we give matching grants and loans to help organizations with the implementation of those climate action plans. And stay tuned at the end of this webinar today for more information and possible some announcement from UJA at the end of this call. On top of the energy-related work, we also work with youth and empower them to learn and take steps to save their world, our world. We have a beautiful Jewish youth climate movement with over 16 chapters here in New York. We call them kvutzot, and this is growing. We will not focus on that type of work today, but if you are interested, please reach out to me and learn more about how you can create a kvutza, a chapter of the Jewish youth climate movement in your institution. Today's event is our 4th webinar this year, and another example of how we support the Jewish community with environmental and climate education and implementation. Today, we are here to discuss climate saving through energy efficiency. Our previous webinars were about climate financing and about the local law 97, which is relevant to the New York City-based institutions, and is one of the most ambitious plans to combating climate change and reducing greenhouse gas emission in the nation. But again, it's focused on New York City. And if it is relevant for you, please go to our website. All the webinars are there, and you can definitely check those links. There's a lot of information that we've provided. Today, we want to speak tachlis on what to do and how to do it. And we will hear some example of institutions that have started this path. Their stories are not complete. They are not carbon-free or full solar or off the grid. We want people on this call to understand that this is a process. It is incremental, and the most important thing is to get started. Once you want to do it, there are many ways to go about it. It can be overwhelming and intimidating, but it doesn't have to be. It's not an all or nothing situation. It's a step-by-step one. You can go in this path to decarbonizing your institutions while saving a lot of money and doing a lot of good. And it feels so good to do the right thing. And you should bring your communities to celebrate those steps with you. Bring them on board, bring your boards and your youth to understand what are those important steps that you're taking. We will start by hearing Bonnie Hagan, the founder and COO of Bright Energy Services and a lay leader in several spaces of the Jewish community. She's leading the Green Table at Westchester Jewish Council and so much more. And she will walk us through what is energy audit processes and give us real life examples of projects and how those save money. Then we'll hear two examples. The first from Amy Schwach, the executive director of Temple Sha'arei Tefillah in New York City, and then from Michal Pele, the president of Westchester Torah Academy, about steps that their institution have taken to better manage their facilities and what are the plans for the future. Then we'll open up for Q&A, and feel free to throw in questions in the chat as we go. And we will also hear from my colleague Lior Milgram-Gertner. She's the Adama Deputy Climate Action Director, who is an amazing source of all climate-related and energy-related issues. And our final words will be from my dear friends at UJA, Annette Powers, the UJA Director of Synagogue Strategy, and Javi Khan, the UJA Director of Day Schools and Yeshiva Strategy, sorry. Who are not only supporting Adama's work in a meaningful way, but themselves are very much committed to greening New York Jewish community, and they are advancing this cause in different ways. So let's get started. The event is recorded, and you will receive all the slides and information in a follow-up email, so you can relax in your seat. And again, if you have any questions, please throw them in the chat and remain muted for the entirety of this webinar. Thank you.
Shall I begin now? Okay, I'm going to share my screen, everybody. Oops. Okay, can everybody see that? All right, well, thank you very much, Shachar. Thank you for having me today. I'm very excited to be here with all of you. Once again, I am Bonnie Hagan. I am a principal at Bright Energy Services, which helps owners and managers of large buildings save energy, save money, and hopefully save the environment. I am also the chair of my synagogue's green team, and I co-chair the Greening Committee for New York County-wide Jewish Association, which some of you may be familiar with. It's called the Westchester Jewish Council. I'm on the board of the UJA Westchester Business and Professional Division. I serve on my city's conservation board, and I champion energy efficiency efforts of all types, both on a volunteer level and on a professional level. Because of my deep involvement with my synagogue, as well as other synagogues, day schools, and Jewish institutions of all kinds, I understand firsthand about the competing needs of the occupants in the buildings versus the buildings themselves. Wouldn't it be great to reduce your gas and electric bills and instead funnel that money into programming for your congregants, students, and families? Upkeeping buildings and making them energy efficient for the people who use the buildings does not need to be a costly exercise. If it's done properly, it can be an enjoyable experience, which results in reduced operating expenses, enhanced building asset value, more community engagement, and a healthier planet, maybe even reversing our climate crisis, hopefully. I know that everyone on this call is a leader in their respective communities, and as leaders, we are charged with tackling issues far and wide. The climate crisis is a global issue, but so are many of the issues we are dealing with today, from politics to economics, from public health to many other social justice issues. The climate crisis is something that we can tackle collectively and in our own backyards. Speaking of global issues, I know that everyone here today is deeply affected by the crisis in Israel and the rise of anti-Semitism worldwide. It feels to me more important than ever for us to come together, both for comfort and to find ways to move forward by doing good in every place that we can. And doing good for the environment and your community is something we can and should do. So I'm going to spend some time here to give you some very, very concrete ways you can, very concrete steps you can take to do good and become more energy efficient and help mitigate the climate crisis and improve the environment. So first, I'd like to clear up 2 misconceptions about becoming energy efficient. Okay, I'm trying to go to my next slide and it is not going. Here it is. Okay. So the first thing I hear quite a bit from people is that going energy efficient is too expensive. And they say that they don't have the money to invest in an energy efficient project. Well, I'm here to tell you that it is too expensive to not be energy efficient. And I don't mean that in a flippant way. I mean that in a very concrete, easy to prove manner. If you think about your budgeting process every year for your facility, you often think in terms of moving money between line items. Just imagine that you can move the money from your utility bill to another line item to be used to pay for an energy efficiency project. You can actually reduce your annual gas and electric expense by 30% and take the balance of that and put it towards one of these projects. And some of you are probably saying to yourself, well, there's a timing issue because you have to save the money first before you can spend it. But the utilities across the country have a solution to that, especially right here in New York. They are offering rebates and other financial incentives at the time of construction before you yield the savings results of the construction to help offset the cost of doing the project. It is really crazy when you think about it. Can you imagine any other business in the world that will pay you to use less of what they are selling? This is not one of those scams that you hear about that if it's too good, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. This is real. I secure utility rebates for my clients every single day to help them pay for their upgrades. The reason why the utilities are doing this is because it is much cheaper for them to pay you to upgrade to more energy efficient equipment than it is to upgrade their own infrastructure. Think about it. Parts of our electrical grid are close to 150 years old. The electricity grid has grown and changed immensely since the early 1880s, when energy systems were small, localized, and mainly used for lights only. Now we use electricity not only for lights, but our computers, refrigerators, TVs, phones, and now even cars. And in many places around the country, the electric grids are at capacity or approaching capacity. So they're willing to pay this money so that they don't have to spend the money upgrading their infrastructure, which would be even more expensive. Let's talk about the second misconception, which people say they want to be energy efficient by going solar. Going solar is great. That's a completely wonderful thing to do. But solar and energy efficiency are 2 completely different things. Energy efficiency is reducing the amount of energy you use, and solar is using maybe the same amount of energy, but getting the energy from a different source. Maybe not from your utility company, but from solar panels on your property or located elsewhere. So I make it a point to tell my customers that they should become as energy efficient as they can before they scope out a solar project. If they do not become energy efficient first, they are likely to overpay for the solar project. Think of it this way. If you use less electricity, you don't need to buy as many solar panels. I compare this to buying a fine suit or a fancy dress. You want to go on your diet first and then make the investment in the clothing. If you buy the clothing and then go on a diet, your clothes won't fit you and you'll look and feel terrible. Same thing with solar. There is no need to spend on an oversized system. Reduce your energy usage first and then get the right size solar system. So now that I've cleared up some of these misconceptions, let me share with you some concrete examples of energy efficiency projects I've done in my community so you can get a sense of what you can do in yours. Once again, I am in New York, a place with the highest energy rates and the strictest energy codes. So I am going to show you a chart of projects that I've done for Jewish institutions in the past few years. They're located all over New York, and I'm just going to bring you through the first one and just kind of highlight the other one so you could see the range of projects and things that can be done. This is for a synagogue. The first one's for a synagogue in Brooklyn, New York, and we did the lighting for them. We upgraded from fluorescent and incandescent and compact fluorescent lights to LED lights. And we saved 19,581 kilowatts for them annually by upgrading to more energy efficient electricity. And for those of you who don't know, a kilowatt hour is a measure of a unit of electricity. So you get billed by your utility company by the kilowatt hour on the most basic level. So that resulted in a savings of $2,937 per year, and that's every year. The cost to upgrade the lighting, the material, the labor, everything involved in filing the paperwork for the utility, it came out to $8,430. But the utility, Con Ed in this case, was providing a rebate of $4,673. That's like 50%. That's great. The payback period for that is just a little bit more than a year. Now, when you think about the example I told you before about moving line items on your annual budget, this facility paid out of pocket $37.56, but the day after the project was complete, they started saving $29.37 a year. They made that $37.56 back after a little over a year. And now every year afterward, that decrease in that line item is forever. So, and not only that, but this actually goes up because as the price per kilowatt hour goes up, so does the savings. All right. We've done a Jewish senior apartment building, a kosher supermarket. That's really interesting because they have refrigeration in there, and the refrigeration often has lights or motors or cases that keep the cooling in, night covers. We've done a nursery school in Brooklyn, synagogue and school in Bronx, a big community center that has a camp, fitness center, theater, classrooms. There were all different types of buildings here used by the Jewish communities. And you will see that all these all the prices for these, are pretty much based on the size of the facility. The net prices are very reasonable with paybacks. You're looking at this one here, the Jewish nursery school in Brooklyn, where they paid zero out of pocket. This was deemed by Con Ed to be in one of those neighborhoods where they weren't just nearing capacity at the grid. They were like at capacity and afraid of having blackouts and brownouts. So Con Ed fully funded this cost of $30,990. And immediately, the day after the project was finished, they started saving $8,800 a year on their Con Ed bill. So they increased their asset value because they had new lighting in their building. And they also reduced their operating expense. And now they have another $880 to spend every year on other things, on the nursery school kids and the occupants in the building. So it's worth it for you to ask if you're located in any zones. Ask your utility if you're located in any zones where it's near or at capacity and they're looking for projects to help bring their usage down. Here's another, without going through everything, you'll see we've done a bunch of synagogues and schools, Yeshivot, a technical college here. This one also has the Jewish Technical College in Forest Hills also had a net of zero because they were in that high stress zone where they needed to reduce the grid immediately. You will notice that most of these projects have payback periods that are relatively quick, 1, 2, 3 years. The one at the bottom was only in 7 months. The higher ones, like this 4.9 years or the 4.4 years to get their money back, those had a significant amount of HVAC projects that were done. And those HVAC, those heating, ventilation, and air conditioning units were at the end of their useful life. They needed to replace multiple units, and it could run into the tens of thousands and sometimes even hundreds of thousands of dollars to replace. And for those of you who are going through that experience and know that your HVAC system is 20, 30 years old and need to replace, you look at this and you say, you know, it's not so bad that I got money back. I got a significant rebate. You know, one of them's over 6 figures. And you know, I've done other energy efficiency projects that, you know, made the facility more sustainable in terms of the environment, but also fiscally. So it was very smart to approach the utilities and to do these types of projects and invest the money into the community rather than into the building after the payback period is achieved. So now that you see these case studies for different types of buildings, you know what's possible, no matter the project size, the project cost, the rebate amount, or the technology being upgraded. The main takeaway is that these one-time upgrades provide cost savings every year in perpetuity. And the cost savings actually rise in the future because the cost per kilowatt hour keeps going up. So if you're interested in doing a project like this, but you don't know where to begin, contact your local utility. They will be able to tell you about the rebate programs that are available in your area and the list of local contractors that can help you develop a project that will go through the rebate program successfully. Let the utility be your champion. I know they are difficult to deal with sometimes, but let them be your champion. While you might have a favorite contractor, the utility will oversee their participating contractors to make sure they are using high quality materials and are calculating the energy efficiency and financial savings properly, and that the contractors are charging fairly. Now, while I specifically focused on lighting, refrigeration, HVAC, and control measures in these case studies, that is because of the needs of these specific clients. Let's see if I can. All right, I've had other clients who have focused on other energy reduction measures. You see them here, you know, pipe insulation, weatherization, boiler clean and tune-ups, motors and pumps, steam traps, plug load reductions, so many things. And there's even more than what's listed here. I can assure you that there are rebate programs for these measures as well. And after you have reduced your energy consumption, there are rebate programs that can help you supplement the cost of installing renewables at your facility, such as solar. Once you do a project, you will become addicted to doing more projects because you will learn how to use the savings and incentives to finance future projects. If you decide to get a loan for any project with the utility behind you, you will be able to structure the financing so that the entire project is cash flow positive, meaning that your monthly energy savings are greater than your monthly loan payment. Many utilities offer no interest or low interest on-bill financing where the project is paid back on your monthly energy bill directly or out of energy savings. How easy is that? Even Adama is offering low interest and no interest financing and matching grants. So if you have your utility provide a rebate, you can speak to Adama about matching that. So, and I'm sure Shachar will talk to you more about the details of that later. So I want to leave you with one last thought. Even with the very generous financial incentives that the utilities nationwide are giving to program participants, with the many programs and potential energy conservation measures that can be done, it is easy to understand how one can be overwhelmed in selecting the right option or options for their facility. So how do building owners, managers, and stakeholders close the gap? It all begins with an energy efficiency audit. When you contact your utility, they will talk to you about an audit. In order to truly manage your energy consumption, you need to take a baseline measure of your usage. You should have a baseline energy audit done so you understand where your building stands in terms of energy use compared to other buildings of the same size and usage type in the same region. An energy audit, for those of you who don't know, is it's just a systematic approach to problem solving and decision making. And the goals are to really quantify and qualify how the energy systems in the building are performing now at this point in time, and how to improve that performance in both financial and energy related terms. The audits are not one size fits all. They vary in depth depending on the configuration of the audit of your energy building systems and the project parameters that you might want to set, because it's usually not possible to know where the audit process will lead and what level of effort will be most cost effective. The American Society of Heating, Refrigeration, and Air Conditioning Engineers, which is also which is also known as ASHRAE, and not ASHRAE Yoshvei Beitecha Od Yerusela, which I always feel like saying after I talk about ASHRAE. They've defined 3 progressive levels of types of audits. So ASHRAE level 1 is the most basic audit. ASHRAE level 3 is the investment grade audit, and ASHRAE level 2 is middle grounds. And the higher you go in the audits, the more technological and computer modeling happens. Whatever kind of audit you choose, and usually the utilities will offer the ASHRAE level 1 unit for free. So whatever kind of audit you need or you choose, it explains the energy bills, the current state of the energy systems, and usually has recommendations for energy conservation measures, with all the accompanying energy and financial metrics. So when they talk about KWH or therms or KW reduced, that translates directly into dollars and cents and investment in your payback period. The person doing the auditing should also include a recommendation on which of the many financial incentive programs are most appropriate for your needs. There are many at the utility, and you should know what to pursue. You often cannot do one program for the same measure in a utility because it's often considered double dipping. So I hope this has inspired you to move forward with an energy upgrade for your facility. Don't wait to do it. Remember, there is an opportunity cost for waiting to do these types of projects. In the energy industry, the cost of waiting refers to the potential savings lost as a result of delaying an upgrade to energy efficient technology. Also, rebate programs change all the time. They are at the highest levels that I have seen right now, more than I've seen over the past decade, and they'll not be this high forever, especially since local law 88 and 97 are mandating these energy upgrades by the end of the year. Once you have to do it, why, the utility says, why should I pay someone to do it? So really, don't wait. The longer you wait, the less rebate dollars are available for your facility and energy reduction initiatives. Also, energy rates continue to go up, and the longer you wait to reduce your demand, the more you continue to pay and the more savings you'll miss out on. So don't wait. Thank you very much for allowing me to share this information with you today.
Thank you so much, Bonnie. This was super useful. I hope to many on the call. And of course, everyone will receive the recording, etc. I want to highlight again the fact that we've done one webinar on financing energy efficiency. So please check that webinar out to think about ways to financing different steps. But as you could hear right now, you don't necessarily need it to get started. The most important thing is to, wet your feet and start doing the first step in the right direction. Okay, we'll turn now to Amy for a short presentation on what Sha'arei Tefillah has been doing in the last few months.
Right, thank you. In executive director world, they tell you never to follow the rabbi. I think in this world, maybe never to follow Bonnie. So thank you, because that was terrific. I really appreciate it. So Temple Sha'arei Tefillah is a Reform congregation on the Upper East Side. It's 179 years old. Luckily, the building isn't. The building we currently occupy was purchased in the late 50s and was originally a movie theater. As many of you know, trying to maintain an older facility, as many of us do, has been really challenging. Trying to get our lay leaders to prioritize sustainability has been challenging. I'm grateful that Shari Tefila has a climate justice team. That was a start. That team is made up of mostly lay leaders and very active with Dayenu in RAC New York, and have been doing a lot of their organizing and advocacy work, specifically with the New York State Legislature, trying to pass legislation that's good for the environment. In an effort to focus our work on our building to make it more sustainable, we also created a green team just recently. So far, our efforts on that green team have mostly been focused on complying with local law 97. The law in New York City, which Bonnie mentioned, for buildings over 25,000 square feet to reduce their carbon footprint. This allowed us not only to make sure we're in compliance with these guidelines by the deadline, but this has brought support from our members to green our building. So some of the things that we've done, again, some of them we would have done anyway, but mostly were for compliance for local law 97, upgrading all of the lights in our building floor by floor. They're almost all now LEDs, drastically reduced the amount of paper we order. We moved to registration, bill, and pay online almost exclusively. We only send paper to those now with no email accounts, and we only have a handful left that fit into that category. During COVID, we started to serve bottled water for all of our programs because people didn't want to share water in pitchers, and now we've gone back to pitchers. So something. We renovated our roof in 2023. We chose a new surface that would better absorb the heat, better than the rubber surface we had been using for over 20 years. The material and the color in those cases make a big difference. You can also choose paint that would help with better absorption of the heat. When we also built a garden on the roof, growing vegetables that the nursery school uses for education and for snacks. We're changing our water fountains slowly to more modern ones with better control of the water output. We've adjusted all the set points for our heat and hot water. We installed temperature controls, making sure all heat and hot water pipes are properly insulated. We installed sensors for the appropriate boiler set points. We weatherized and air sealed our windows and our ducts. We installed timers on our exhaust fans. We installed radiant barriers on all of our radiators. That's a nice expensive thing that we're in the middle of. And there's so much more to do. And it's just the beginning. And like Bonnie said, this is a process. Don't feel overwhelmed by all the things you can do. The journey of 1,000 steps starts with just one. You can choose the things that are sort of lower hanging fruit and easier to accomplish, and that you could rally support for. And you'd be surprised at the things that you may already be doing. What I found when we were trying to comply with the local law 97 guidelines is that many of the things on that list were actually just part of our regular maintenance plan. There were obviously some things that we had to do and some things that we had to figure out how to budget for. But by and large, we were already doing them, and you may already be doing them, also. So again, this is just the beginning of our work. I want to just thank you, JA and Adama, for the opportunity to participate today and the work that they're doing on behalf of all of us. Hopefully you'll be able to take advantage of all of the resources available to help with all of these sustainability and greening efforts. And I'll put my email in the chat, and I'm happy to answer any questions or send you any information that you'd like after this session. Thank you.
Wonderful, Amy. Thank you so much. Such a long list of things you already did, and I know of other things you're planning to do. And I encourage everyone to just start making those lists. Now we'll turn to Michal from Westchester Torah Academy to share their experience with us. And please keep bringing those questions in the chat. We'll refer to them at the end. Yeah, go ahead, Michal.
Hey, thank you, Shachar. Thank you, Bonnie, and thank you, Amy. Amy already, and Bonnie, some of the things that you're saying, I have a list. I'm going to share my screen, and I still need to modify my list for some items that you mentioned that I think could apply to us in the near future and to add to our plan. So I just put together this chart, and on the left-hand side, let's take a step back. I represent Westchester Torah Academy. We're in New Rochelle. It's a modern Orthodox preschool, lower school, and middle school. We have about 250 students, and thank God we're growing really nicely. We have an old building, which we call them a mansion, and then we have a new building, new construction, which is only a couple of years old. So the new construction is pretty energy efficient, but then we had the challenges of the old building to deal with that, which is similar to what was just described. So some of those systems with support from other foundations actually have been upgraded over the past 7 years, including the HVAC system on the roof. But there are other many other projects that we'd like to do. So I broke it down to measures we would like to take or plan to take and measures we have taken. And this is really a work in progress. We had a few of these items on our plan to do list, but truth is, once we became part of the coalition and really, did that self-analysis and survey, we really realized how much more we could do. Some pretty easy steps, some, larger ones that are more costly. But, we're trying to create a multi-year plan. So I'll start with the column on the left, the measures we have taken. One thing that we saw it as an immediately easy area to improve is our food service. In general, we're an affordable school, and we look not to waste in any capacity. So we really hadn't looked at our food program like we started to now. And we looked at what was left over, what was finished. We communicated with the caterer so that we decreased the leftovers. And we changed the serving of the food that the teachers or adults serve to the students to have less waste and give smaller portions so the students waste less, but they'll come back if they want more. And we also now have a standing list of families that we distribute leftover food to. Also reusing and recycling our servingware and things along those lines. So we're very comfortable and happy with how we tightened that up. Regarding the water that was mentioned before, our students always used to bring their own disposable water bottles. Some brought reusable, but we changed it. Everyone brings reusable water bottles. We have water bottle filling stations and we're also emphasizing our recycling measures as well. We have already upgraded in our old building to LED bulbs throughout. We already have smart thermostats in both our buildings and motion sensors with the lighting. Regarding the outdoors, we have started to increase the plantings on our property. We have a multi-acre property, and it's an ongoing plan to add more. We have a multi-year plan for that. Regarding the outdoors, we don't use pesticides. We do have a tick treatment, which is natural. The school has planted a vegetable garden, so the kids experience organic gardening. We also emphasize the outdoors in general. They go outside to have class as much as possible. We're coordinating with the Isabella Freeman Center for school programming for our middle school and the lower school. And then our building committee has an awareness of looking for energy saving measures, which is important because it wasn't on their minds before. So we're all thinking differently now. And our communication as well is electronic almost entirely. So what do we want to do? We really have some big projects we want to do. We want to install solar panels to project, it's projected 80–90% savings off our monthly electric bills. On our old building, we really do need to convert our windows, improve insulation. We're actually hoping we'll get the federal security grant, which will provide for upgraded windows, which we need to do for security measures. And then that would provide a double benefit. We want to install a bike rack. We do have some people who bike ride to school or to work, and we think it would attract more people to use their bikes. We want to put an EV charging station. We do own our own buses, and we're looking into converting them to electric vehicles. A really large project, which we're just starting to speak to professionals about, is using water that's on the property. We have some retention pits, and to use that for irrigation, so to recycle that water. And we are planning to get an energy audit, which was mentioned before by Bonnie. So in a nutshell, we feel like we have accomplished a lot, but we feel like we have so much more to accomplish. but we feel very comfortable with our plan, and we do appreciate that it will take time, and we're really very open to, any suggestions, any new ideas. And we've participated in a few of these Adama talks, and we listen, and there's a lot to glean from each one, and we just add it to our plan. So we're really appreciative for these opportunities.
Thank you so much, Michal. This is wonderful. I love seeing what was done and what is planned. And in the Climate Jewish Leadership Coalition, we do emphasize climate action plans. It doesn't mean that you have to implement the plan in year one, but having this long-term strategic planning for your organization makes a lot of sense. Now I want to turn, I think we can get off the highlight mode and bring all the speakers together and continue to put your questions in the chat. The first question we have here is from Racheli Hakel. Are there opportunities to save money for new construction projects? Meaning we're not replacing an old system, but we're building a new building from scratch. So I guess the question is for Bonnie.
Most of my work is in existing buildings and retrofitting them. I would say contact your utility. Sometimes they do run new building incentives, but really the bulk of the incentives is for existing buildings and to modernize them.
I would just mention that local legislation, at least in New York, will not let you build new buildings if they're not up to date with the regulation, etc. Lior, please go ahead.
That is a great question. And as Shachar mentioned, for those within the coalition, we have a climate action fund, and Bonnie mentioned it too, a climate action fund that has 0 interest loans, and also a matching grant program. And kind of to address this kind of a question, we for that work, we ask for emissions reductions kind of greater than what would otherwise be happening. And so if your new building kind of meets code, but you actually want to go beyond what code requires, then our climate action fund can apply for our climate action fund to go above and beyond what the law requires.
The next question we have from Norman Mandel from the Sephardic Community Center in Brooklyn. Norman says, we completed an LED lighting project and converted 4 water heaters to 2 gas-fired tankless heaters that perform the same function. Is a solar project the right next step?
Can I answer that?
Yes.
Okay. It is hard to tell without knowing exactly what other technology is in your building. So, if you've had an energy audit done, they usually have recommendations. I would go through that list of recommendations to see what the effect will be on your energy bill in terms of reducing kWh and kW, and then determine if solar is the next step. If there's literally no other, energy being used in the building except for those systems, or everything has already been upgraded, then why not go solar if you've done everything that you could?
Wonderful. Lior, please go ahead. And I know you have some slides to share too.
What's been said and what's been shared already is really, really exceptional. So just kind of like icing on the cake. If we get bored at the end, I can share my slides. And I'll say that at with the framework of the coalition, everything Bonnie said remains true, that you want to first find the ways to reduce emissions and then add the solar. And from our experience, reality on the ground can be a little different. There may be a community member for whom solar is really exciting, and they want to visually see that like a representation of climate action on your rooftop, on a parking lot. And the moment, for a million different reasons, the moment may be ripe for you as a community to go ahead and take on solar. And if at the end of the day, right, the order may not be as perfect as Bonnie recommended, the net gain is still really incredible. And if there are questions, if you're concerned about overproduction, which is kind of what Bonnie suggested, that you kind of meet your electricity needs now, but if you reduce over time, then you may have more. If that's your concern, then you discuss that upfront with the solar contractors, and you try to right size it. So if the moment is right, and right now there are incredible incentives for pursuing solar from the Inflation Reduction Act, and if you're in a disadvantaged zone, there's so many incentives that will be here for a while, but also ripe. Like if the moment is right, I think we do recommend you just go for it.
All right. I see there are no more questions at this point, so I want to turn to Annette to share some of the UJA perspective on these processes.
Thank you, and I'm so glad everyone could be here today, and we'll also share the recording and the slides with people, and especially for those that couldn't be here. And thank you, Shachar, for organizing all of this. We're thrilled to partner with Adama and with others to help New York synagogues and day schools become more energy efficient. We really hope you learned today that, that you can start small. It doesn't have to be overwhelming. I think Bonnie and, Amy really spoke about how it's one step at a time. So we think there are many possibilities for you to better manage your facility and save money in the process. We, as was sort of hinted at earlier, we're in the process of working with Adama on a matching grant program specifically to encourage day schools and synagogues to implement new energy efficiency projects. And we hope to announce more details soon. But in the meantime, we recommend that you spend time over the summer joining the Adama Coalition, doing an energy audit to determine what kinds of projects you would want to begin in the fall, and really just starting this work. There's so much information out there, but I really appreciate the speakers today that I think made this a little easier to understand and a little, manageable. So thank you all for being here. And I think my colleague Javi Khan wanted to mention a few other things. Javi?
Hi, thank you so much, Annette, and thanks to each of you for being here. I know in this whole world, this is an extremely busy time, and we really appreciate you taking this time to learn with us. I wanted to just highlight that we've been in touch with many of you in New York City, specifically, as was mentioned, given the impending LL97 deadline. And what we've noticed is a real commitment to try to understand the requirements and really to try to be energy efficient. And it's great to see everyone from across our catchment area and community here. One comment that I just wanted to highlight that was said by Dr. Paley was the effort of the school to really focus on a green team and to embed this long-term strategic planning into the thinking. And we're very, that's great. We want to encourage more schools and synagogues to have that long-term view. And we hope that this fund that we are working on will help to spur and incentivize a continued commitment to energy efficiency. Thank you to Adama and to all of you.
Thank you, Javi and Annette. And thank you all the speakers for sharing their knowledge and experience with us today. Again, I want to encourage you all to take advantage and to use the support mechanisms that exist out there, ours included. And as Annette mentioned, join the coalition. So when the time is right for you, you could potentially apply to get a grant from us. And feel free to reach out to me directly or to any of the speakers here today. And in the spirit of Shavuot and my mantra for the foreseeable future, when the Israelites received the Torah in Har Sinai, they said, "Naaseh, naaseh, naaseh v'nishma." We will do, and then only after we will hear. This is to say, the action preceded the debating. And we at Adama believe we are in a Naaseh v'nishma moment. So I hope you will all take some of it and feel more ready to take a pledge and it's a new Torah, it's the energy efficiency Torah, but hopefully you'll take some step in doing while you're still listening and thinking about it and deliberating. This is what needs to be done. It needs to be done well. And of course, questioning it could be part of the process as long as it doesn't prevent us from taking action. And as I mentioned, doing the right thing and creating a positive impact on our environment, reducing our carbon footprint and creating a more resilient world is what we all at Adama encourage you to do, and involve your community with doing exactly that. Celebrate it with you. It is a moral imperative, and it will make your future challenges easier. Again, here at Adama, as well as our partner at UJA and others, are here to support you in the process. Thank you so much for everyone on this call today. Take good care.